Hey guys, this is You Brought Me Home, aka 80s Child, aka Lisa, with part 2 of my Charmed reboot, season 1, episode 1 pilot review. I was doing it live before and I didn't have the time to finish it. I got cut off because of my kids coming home from school, so I had to cut it short. Anyway, going back from where I left off, I was talking about that I felt as though the grieving process wasn't very organic for the girls. Some of it was okay, but a lot of it just didn't feel right. And I did watch the second episode, so you're going to see a lot more of that when I do my review tomorrow of that episode. I just feel like okay. I know I'm citing a lot of examples from the original Charmed, but I'm not saying that I want all of it to be like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that I feel like it's just not organic enough. It doesn't feel natural, the progression. And it could be a lot better. Okay, so the girls lose their mother 3 months later. Macy Vaughn, their unknown sister, arrives in town. She's been given a job. She's a scientist and she works at a lab in the college where Mel works and where Maggie is a college student. I really wish it wasn't like that. It made so much more sense in the original show when they each had 3 very distinct careers in 3 very distinct places. Gave a lot more roundness to the characters. By having them all working or going to school in the same place, it makes it more difficult to differentiate between the 3 of them. It just feels like they're static. You know what I mean? Like there's very little development between the 3 to give them their own distinct personalities. So she's walking past their house with her boyfriend, Galvin, and she realizes that the house is the one from the picture that she has of herself as an infant being held by her mother, who apparently gave her up for adoption when she was a baby. And she's wondering whether or not she should go up to go up there and introduce herself to the girls, because she read the articles online about the death of their mother, and she feels like she's not sure if she should or she shouldn't, because it might not be the best time since they just lost their mom. And Galvin's trying to support him and saying, "Hey, you should." But again, very little context. We don't know why she gave her up. We don't know who her father is, if she has the same father as the other 2 girls or not. I mean, and the second episode is not very helpful with this information either. My issue with them making her a half-sister is primarily because in the original series, they had to do it the way they did because Shannon Doherty left, which left a vacancy for a 3rd sister. Fortunately, they had precedent in the past by saying that their mother had an affair with her white lighter, so it gave them a precedent in order to have a 4th sister. Having Macy be a half-sister wasn't really necessary. They could have just had 3 sisters blanket up front. They didn't have to have one, coming out of the woodwork, because there's like no real reason for it. It just kind of plunked in there solely for the fact that it was in the original series, and it's like they're trying to check off that box, and it ain't right. It's copying, but not in a good way. When you're just copying for the sake of copying, but you don't put the context in for it to make sense. You know what I mean? So she decides to leave it alone for the time being, and she goes back to the college. Maggie is completely obsessed with rushing the sorority, and this is where she realizes that her powers are kind of starting. She brushes up against the girls in the hallway and she starts sharing her thoughts, which is the most convoluted way of making your powers appear, to be honest with you. I've always been a fan of the telepathic power, but I'm a fan when it's done properly. If any of you guys have ever seen the show Babylon 5, they do a wonderful job when it comes to telepaths and how telepaths use their power, how they get their powers when they're young, and how they have to deal with them, and how it takes a great deal of emotional and mental strength to keep it up and to block other voices out like that. They have a whole subplot in season 5 with them. It's incredible. But if Charmed had handled it like that, I think I would appreciate it a lot better. Because her power apparently is only on when she's touching people. So when she's not touching people, it don't work. And I don't think that's not how telepathy works. Once it's on, it's on. And you have to exercise a great deal of mental fortitude to block the unwanted voices out and only zero on the ones that you want to hear. I really wish they would have done it like that. It would have been so much better. I mean, even Charmed kind of hit on that. It wasn't telepathy necessarily, but empathy. They showed it properly. Empathy and telepathy go hand in hand. So I wish they kind of would have showed that properly. But they didn't, and she kind of used it for personal gain to find out what the other girls were thinking about her. Yeah, not really. And then Mel's powers started showing up. She was in a cafe with Nico trying to figure out their relationship or lack thereof. Because apparently she was so obsessed with her mother's death that she pushed Nico away and put a wall up between them, so Nico kind of decided to leave, take herself out of the picture. And they're discussing it at the table in the cafe, and one of the waiters comes by, spills, or attempts to somehow spills something, and her powers just activate. But you don't realize that her powers have activated until she kind of goes. I mean, when the spill is about to happen, you kind of know, okay, it's going to happen. Because that's what happened to Piper. She was trying to cook a meal, this big meal at the restaurant that she was working at to impress the head chef, and she had forgotten the key ingredient, which was the port. And she was freaking out about it because she was afraid that would throw off the whole flavor. And then she's like, ah, her hands, and then everything froze. Like the room itself froze. Not the outside, just the room itself. And that's when she was able to add the port with the dropper. This chick's powers, she froze the whole area, not just Nico and the dude, but the whole restaurant and everybody outside, including the animals. That's a little much. Piper could only slow down, and I'm tired of people saying freeze time, it's not what it is. It's slowing down molecules. That's what it is. She could only do that in very specific places. Like in the room she was in, not outside. That's not how it works. She did get to that point years later when her powers began to progress, but not at this early stage. And of course you have Macy sitting in the bar with her sisters this is after she actually works up the courage to go to the house and talk to them and introduce herself, and it does not go well. Mel just doesn't want to deal with it. Maggie's like, this is not the best time. And they get angry at each other, and Macy decides to leave. But as she's walking into the house, if you remember from the original Charmed, when the three of them, say the spell, for the witches to rise, and the three of them are standing under the chandelier starts tink, 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 and the lights go. That's their power of three coming together. But only after they came together as sisters. When their bond solidified, it wasn't just them, oh wow, we're witches now, ting, 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 ting. No. Their bond had to solidify first for the tink, tink to happen. Same thing with Paige. Paige went into the house, she said the spell, and they told her she was a witch. But she didn't believe it at first. Their bond wasn't solid yet. So when she went downstairs, the tink, tink didn't happen until their bonds solidified. When she saved her boyfriend's life and they got rid of Shax. That's when it finally happened, because they were solid together as three as one. You really need to do their homework on this. I'm not saying it has to be exactly like Charm. but they've lost, there's like no depth to this. It's so, I feel like the show is shallow in a lot of ways. So, like, there's a lightning strike and the power flickers and flashes and goes out, and that's supposed to be the powers coming together because the three of them are in the house together. Yeah, I didn't feel that. I just felt like, oh my god, the power's out. Ooh. It didn't feel like it was a true emotional, like, coming together moment. Because at the time, they didn't know her, they didn't know who she was, they didn't even know that she was their sister. She just held this picture to me and says, I think I'm your sister. They should have done this more gradual. I know they needed to get everything set up in the first episode. That's what I'm fairly certain that's what they were trying to do, was set everything up, set everything up in the first episode so they could just carry on. But it didn't turn out very well. They could have introduced Macy to them in the first episode, but not necessarily have them as a unit yet. Could have maybe 2 or 3 more episodes before they got solid. Would have made more sense, more natural progression. So she leaves the house, she goes to the bar with her boyfriend. She says, that's a bad idea, I shouldn't have gone, blah, blah. She gets into an argument with him, her powers go off, the beer bottle flings itself across the room and hits the wall and shatters. And she's like, I can't believe I did that. I must be drunk. What? Bitch, what? Are you serious? And nobody else saw that? Her boyfriend definitely did. He was sitting right next to her and didn't think, what the fuck? Like, at all? Just bought that, oh, she flung it across, she threw it because she was drunk? What? What? You know, Prue's powers were a lot more subtle. She made the cream go from the container into the coffee. She busted her ex-boyfriend's pen in his pocket and caused the ink to get everywhere in his pocket. She caused the ex-boyfriend's tie to get caught in the shredder or whatever. Much more subtle and much more tied to emotional reactions, like when Prue and Phoebe were in the pharmacy and she was trying to convince Prue that she was a witch. Prue didn't believe it, and she's like, dad, 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 and then all the pills came off of the shelf because her father was an emotional trigger for her at that time anyway. Much more natural progression. This is just bottle, smash wall. Oh, I must be drunk. What? For as scientifically inclined as she is, you would think she'd be questioning that a lot more. So, after this, Harry becomes the new head of women's studies, and he goes to talk to Mel. And then this weird, like, I don't even know how to describe it. This weird conversation occurs between them where he compliments her on some articles that she wrote, and she proceeds to shit all over him because he's a male. And then he says that the articles made him feel like his penis had been cut off. Okay. I have some issues here. I'm just going to talk about this all in one. We'll get more of it in the review for episode 2, but I'm glad that there is LGBTQ representation. I'm glad that there's persons of color representation, because too few shows have this kind of representation, and that's good. But at the same time, I feel like they have gone about it the wrong way. We already know about the controversy about them advertising this as a Latina-led show when it's obviously not, because only one of the sisters is actually a Latina. But that aside, the LGBTQ thing, it's great that there's representation. However, you also have to be conscious about how you represent it. If you have a lesbian in the show, okay, she's a lesbian, whatever. Does that mean that she hates all men? No. But they've stereotyped her as the prototypical lesbian, emotional, crazy-ass lesbian who hates men. She even hates Harry. He's the white lighter. He's watched over them. He's trying to help them understand who they are and where they come from and their powers. And she shits all over him simply because he's a man. As a matter of fact, she shits over just about, she shits on just about anybody who is male in the show, which drives me up the wall. At the protest rally for the reinstatement of that professor that their mother brought up on charges, she gets into a confrontation with a male student who, he didn't say anything wrong. He simply said, she brought him up on charges. He was suspended. He appealed it. The college decided that he was in the right. They reinstated him. That's it. The truth will out. The truth did out. Blah. Okay. And she punches him in the face for no real reason other than he's a male. And this kind of discourse just keeps going on and on and on. Like, when they vanquish the demon at the end, the guy, that same guy who she punched out, whose life that they just had to save, who was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, they treat him like shit and treat saving his life as an afterthought. What the fuck? The point of being Charmed One wasn't just to vanquish demons, it was also to save innocence. Where did that aspect go? Because it doesn't seem like it even exists in the show. It seems like it's all about just vanquishing of the demons. Where is the humanity? Like, really, where is the humanity? And then she says to him, they're afraid he's gonna go and talk and tell everybody that they're magical, and she's like, oh, let him. They won't believe anything he says. It's a he said, she said situation. Are you serious? This entire episode was pervaded with a bunch of Me Too shit. Like, he said, she said. Your articles made me feel like my penis needs to be cut off. Like, and even Harry even tells them that, according to the rules of the show, that new witches have 48 hours to decide whether or not they want to accept their witchly powers. And if after 48 hours they decide not to, they will forget that they were ever witches and they will lose their powers. That's bullshit. Their powers are intrinsic. They were born with them. They can't just lose their powers. And they certainly wouldn't lose memory of Macy because they met her before they got their powers, before all this ever happened. So yeah, that's bullshit. But anyway, I know that they were trying to borrow that from the original show, but they totally fucked it up and went about it the wrong way. They're like, oh really? Wow. And he says to them, well, of course, because being a witch is it's totally a pro-choice operation. Okay, I understand wanting to be feminist. I understand wanting, putting little bits of Me Too in there and millennial jargon and things to appeal to the new generation of viewers. But there's a way to be subtle about it. This was not subtle. This was bash you over the head with a baseball bat. Seriously. This was flashing neon lights, Me Too everywhere, all the way down to the protest movement about the professor being reinstated. This was beyond on the fucking nose. This was like bam, 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 bam. Way too fucking much. Way too heavy-handed on the feminist shit. Trust me. And I'm a woman. Okay. I'm a feminist, believe me, but that was way too fucking much. The fact that Mel is a lesbian it shouldn't be like focused on. She's a lesbian. Okay, great. It shouldn't be like this big deal thing. There shouldn't be anything attached to it. Oh, she hates men, or oh, this, or oh, that. Being a lesbian should not come with codicils. She's just a lesbian. She likes women. Big fucking deal. Okay. So Harry kidnaps them and ties them to chairs and explains to them that they're the charmed ones, that their mother was in the process of unbinding their powers when she was murdered, and that they all have magical powers. They don't believe him. They think he's full of shit until Macy picks up a globe using her powers and tosses it across the room. It's very focused for someone who's only just gotten her powers and has had zero training. They really need to learn. No one can be that focused that early. It takes time. Even Super Witch Prue wasn't that focused. At least not at first, anyway. And there was no squinting of the eyes, no hands, no nothing to show that it was happening. And the little tinkle was so, you could barely hear it. So you really had no foreknowledge that it was coming. Badly done. Badly done. I didn't like the fact that he tied them to chairs and pretty much mansplained the entire plot of the show to them. Oh my God. Look, the premise of Charmed as a whole is the power of three sisters coming together, not just as witches, but as sisters, and the strength in that. They did not need Wyatt to tell them who they were or where they came from. Wyatt wasn't even there in the first episode. It was all just them. He didn't need to mansplain the whole thing to them. They figured it out on their own. Phoebe was the one that got the spirit board. She and Piper were the ones that were messing around with it. Piper didn't want to deal with it, and when Phoebe went to put it back, Phoebe was the one that found the book. Phoebe was the one that read the book, and Phoebe was the one that cast the first initial spell. Witches rise, course unseen throughout the skies. Phoebe was the one that brought them together through this book, because she read it from cover to cover. That's one thing that these girls still have not done yet. They have not come together truly as witches, and they sure as hell haven't read the fucking book. Maybe that's why they need Harry to mansplain everything to them, because they, haven't taken the time out to actually read anything to understand who and what they are and what the spells mean. I know I said I had no problem with the spells being in Latin, but again, it's hard to understand what they're saying and what the spell means when everything is in Latin. It would just be better if it was in English so that we could understand what they're saying. Plus, if fans later on want to build their own Book of Shadows, they'll at least know what the spells are. That's how we were able to build a Book of Shadows for the old Charm series. They were in English. Don't get me started on the spells. That's for tomorrow's review. So first they think, if they finally somewhat accept it, Macy wants to just figure out some scientific explanation for witchcraft. Girl, you gotta stop. I understand she's a scientist, that's her frame of thinking, but science, magic don't go together. They just don't. And all of this need she has to scientifically understand the witchcraft is detracting from the fantastical element of the show. It's detracting from the magic itself. Because she feels as though, first they think that because Maggie was walking in the forest and she was attacked by a demon dog who was apparently possessed. Girl, why are you walking in the forest by yourself at night? Are you nuts? Like, really? Harry says a possessed dog means its owner is possessed. Apparently the boyfriend, Maggie's college or high school boyfriend, who's now college boyfriend, has this dog, and the guy is possessed out of nowhere for no apparent reason. According to Harry, it's because there's a possibility that now that they've gotten their powers, that demons from the underworld will know, and they're going to use people close to them to get to them. But there's no setup whatsoever for this guy getting possessed. You don't see it happen. You don't feel anything for this guy getting possessed because you don't really know who this guy is other than he's her ex-boyfriend. But there's no like depth to the character. There's nothing. There's no emotional connection to this guy. And there's no reason for him to be possessed. Just all of a sudden, he's possessed. Okay? So Macy thinks that, according to the book, from what she can tell, that she can use baking soda or some concoction to unpossess him. And vanquish whatever it is that's possessing him. Okay. I think it would be easier just to say a spell. At first they think that that's the demon that killed their mom, and I'll be honest with you, I was pretty fucking pissed off. I was afraid that it was going to be like a one and done deal where they vanquish this demon and boom, their mother's killer's caught, and that's it. In the original show, the death of their mother haunted them for over 20 years. It was a major motivating factor in their life. It had a profound effect on everything they did and everything they became as they grew up. It took them 20 years to take on the demon that murdered her and finally put her soul to rest and leave the past behind. If they, in this new reboot, managed to wrap that shit up and find their mother's murder in one episode and just tie it with a little bow and that's it, oh, Jesus. That is such a slap in the face. There's no emotional depth in that. I mean, I understand that TV viewers these days want their action quick, but why would you want to watch a show with no emotional depth? That is so ridiculous. Even Supernatural, for as much as it is focused on demons and angels and battles between heaven and hell, even it has emotional depth. This show is sorely lacking in it. So they go to the sorority party at Maggie's sorority house. She's been told to go there because it's the end of rush week and that's their sorority party, and they believe that he'll be there, the boyfriend, so they're all going to go there to try and confront him. They're not entirely sure at first who the demon is. At first they think it might be the head of the sorority girl, the one girl who's like the mean girl. So Mel, or is it Macy? No, Mel tracks her down, or Maggie tracks her down in the cupboard where all the alcohol is and throws the baking soda on her. She's like, oh, are you serious? Oh my God, I'll just invite you in here because our parties are dry ever since Coma Girl. Oh. I just might want to have something, Jesus. So they screwed that one up totally. And you know something? If they just read the fucking book, they would know what they were looking for. But they didn't even bother to do that. They're just depending on Harry to mansplain it all for them. So whoever said that the show was feminist, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, because apparently they need Harry to watch their every fucking move. You know, in the original Charmed, I understand that Leo was a white lighter. It was his job to look after them and to be concerned for their safety, but he didn't have to be there 24 hours a day. He didn't have to explain every single thing about witchcraft to them. Their strength was in them being able to come together and figure it out for themselves. Whenever they came across a demon, they went upstairs and they read the fucking book. And they figured it out on their own. He didn't even come to help them that much when he was living in the house. When he was living in a house, he didn't look over them that much. He had other charges. He went there when they were in an emotional crisis or when they needed someone to talk to, and then he left. He was not there to tell them every which way about how to get rid of a demon or how to do this or how to do that. Not his job. It's ridiculous. They do not know how to come together as a trio and learn how to read a fucking book and take out a demon. Macy was the only one. She stayed up all night while the other two were asleep, and she was the only one that read the damn book. And all she could think to do was, oh, well, this is scientifically easy. Baking soda. Are you fucking kidding me right now? You're fucking kidding me? Where's the magic in that? Where's the magic in that? You don't need a book to explain baking soda. Oh my god. So they finally realize that it's the boyfriend, and they go after him, they throw the baking soda on him, he gets depossessed, and Maggie gives him a kiss, oh, thank you, you know. But there was a very weird scene that preceded that where they were sitting on the couch together, and he asked permission to kiss her. More heavy-handedness with the feminist stuff. I mean, it is good to ask permission first, yes, but it's just so heavy-handed and so on the nose and just, And when she touches him, she hears his thoughts and she realizes that he's possessed. The sisters come in, they throw the stuff on him, the demon is vanquished, and they think that this is the guy that's killed their mother, but that's not true. So the next day, Mel goes to the protest rally to protest the reinstatement of the professor, and that's when Macy and her sister and Harry realize that it's not, or Macy realizes that it's not the boyfriend, because Harry told them that the demon had a very specific trait. The demon was cold, ice cold, and the boyfriend wasn't cold. Didn't make the temperature drop in the room at all. So it wasn't the boyfriend. So now they believe it's the professor. Because the professor was the only person who had a reason to go after her. The mother was the one that was trying to fire him from his job because of sexual harassment, which, let's be honest, I'm pretty damn sure that he was guilty. I mean, the first day Macy went to work there, he totally came on to her and was feeling her up and everything. So, yeah. So much for feminism. If the show was supposed to be so fucking feminist, why did they have to show that scene? It was, like, unnecessary, completely. It was so obvious. It was completely obvious. There was, like, no air of mystery to this at all. It was obvious from the beginning that it was the professor. The professor was literally the only person that had a reason to want her dead. Literally the only one. So there wasn't really any mystery in this. The show was so heavy-handed, so on the nose obvious that it takes very little thinking to figure this shit out. So they go down there and they save Mel from doing something incredibly stupid. They go into the lab where the demon is. The demon confronts them. He shows his true face, and oh my god. Okay. I understand, this is 2018, they want to use CGI. I get it. But there is something to be said for practical effects. Believe me. They look much better when it comes to demons and making demons look realistic than bullshit CGI. It was very rare that a demon on Charmed ever had to be fully rendered in CGI. And I don't just mean because of the time frame in which the show was made. I mean because they managed to do with practical effects much more to show demonness or warlockness than just completely CGI rendering somebody. Honestly, I would have appreciated a hell of a lot more if it was practical effects and makeup. It works better, it's more natural, it looks more realistic, and it's much less stupid. Because as soon as that demon opened his mouth, that CGI demon, yeah, any idea that dude was scary was just lost. Well, dude wasn't scary to begin with. The CGI wasn't that great. And then when he opened up his mouth and started talking, it was just like, really? Seriously? These girls thought that this guy killed their mother. There was no emotion in that kill. There was fear, but there was very little emotion in that kill. So Macy he blinds him with ice smoke, and she uses her powers to bring her sisters to her. I did not realize she was capable of doing that, especially if she cannot see what she's trying to move. It's a big staple of telekinesis. You have to have line of sight. They join hands, and then light show and everything, and Macy was the one that said the spell. But it's power of 3 spell. That means they have to say the spell together. And this shit is so fucking heavy-handed that Harry literally has to tell them. He's standing behind them and he has to tell them, you need to say the spell together. It's the power of 3. Seriously. Are they that dumb that they couldn't figure this out? Oh wait, that's right. They didn't read the fucking book. Oh my god, these girls are annoying. So, even though the other two have no idea what the spell is and have never seen it before, they're just accurately able to recite it from only hearing Macy say it one time. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So in this fracas, the guy that Mel confronted outside follows them in, sees everything happen, and he gets skewered with an icicle or something. So after they dispatch this demon, the demon tells them, oh, you thought I was the one that killed your mom? Oh, no. How wrong you are. And he dies. He couldn't even die properly. Anyway, Harry saves his life, removes the memory from him. But, okay, here's my issue with Harry. Harry is supposed to be emotionally in tune with his charges. White lighters, by their nature, are supposed to be emotionally in tune with their charges to help them in their time of need. And Harry looked at saving this guy as an afterthought. He didn't even make a movement to save this guy until the sisters mentioned it. And the sisters barely mentioned it at that. That's fucked up. That is something that Leo would never have done. Leo's first imperative would be to make sure that the innocent was not even in the room. He would have orbed him away like that. This is some fucked up shit. These girls don't care about innocent people. They're so wrapped up in their own bullshit, they don't care about who they're hurting. It's ridiculous. Not only that, but he treats people in general like they're an afterthought. He even treats the girls kind of like crap at first. Mansplains everything and okay. I will admit, I understand why he would be annoyed with them not listening and not taking what he says for truth. I get that. Because I would be annoyed too. But he doesn't try to see it from their point of view. He just gets annoyed that they're being annoying. He kind of acts like the typical dude who thinks, the 3 little girls don't understand what's going on. Oh my god, so annoying. This show is so millennial, it's ridiculous. Maybe that makes me sound old, I don't give a fuck. But it's so millennial, it's ridiculous. So at the end of the episode, they invite Macy to live with them because she's their sister and they want to all be together and blah, 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 they're charmed. But at the very end, they get a message from the spirit board that says they think is from their mother, saying don't trust Harry, and Harry's right behind them. So now that's in question as to whether or not Harry can be trusted. And we will discuss more of that with the review of episode 2. Wow. Wow. 1.5, barely 2 out of 4 stars for this one. I wanted to shit can it from the beginning. I was ready to be like, fuck their shit. But you know what? Because it's a pilot, I took a step back. I said, you know what? It's a pilot. It needs to find its footing. I will give it 2 or 3 more episodes to come together. If it can set its shit straight in a couple more episodes, okay. If not, I'm gonna walk away because this is a complete slap in the face to everything that Charmed was. Like, complete. I'm not saying that the show has to be like Charmed. I know it will never be like Charmed. But I just feel like they did not do their homework. They didn't even not institute the most basic of rules for the show to follow based off of the other show. Basic rules. The acting was subpar. I mean, I don't feel an emotional connection between the 3 of them at all. The guy playing Harry, Rupert Graves, was ridiculous. Like, I know he's trying to channel Rupert Giles from Buffy, but it ain't working. Even Giles had emotional range. That's because Anthony Head is fucking awesome. This dude has no range. Like, he's just boring and no emotion, none. And he's like, he exists to mansplain everything. Because apparently he's there all the time. It's like these girls cannot do anything without him. I know that a lot of people used to say, well, Leo's there all the time and the girls can't exist without him. That's not true. That is not true. Because Leo didn't become a permanent fixture in the house till season 2. They got along quite well without him there. He was only there minimally in season 1 till they realized that he was magical. And they existed quite well without him there. And then, of course, towards the end of the show, when the show took a pay cut and they couldn't afford to have Brian Krause on the show at all, in the second half of season 8, he wasn't even there. And they existed pretty fucking well, I think. Well, anyway, that is my review for season 1, episode 1, Charmed Reboot. And I will be back with you guys tomorrow for season 1, episode 2. I don't even know what the title is. Does it have one? I don't know. I will review that. A lot more to say. It's late. Gotta go to bed. See y'all later. Bye, guys.